To you. Hey guys, it's September the 18th, and we got a pretty view here. It's a little after 6 o'clock in the evening, and I found me another through hiker, and we actually met him last year and found out he's going to be out here and came out here and found him. Give us your trail name.
My name is Far Far.
Far, far, tell me when you started hiking out here for your through hike and what happened and all that.
Okay. I started last year, 2018, on March 11th. I started down south, was doing a northbound hike, and after about 800 miles or so, I had some bouts of shin splints. I had to get off the trail a couple of times, one time for over a week. And at that point, I decided I was not going to complete a through hike that year. And I made the decision to become a section hiker.
Okay.
Now, it was a little difficult for me because for many years I'd been thinking ahead and looking forward to being a through hiker. It meant a lot to me to do that. So it was a little difficult to make that transition.
Let me stop you there and ask you, when was the first time you ever heard about the Appalachian Trail? Can you remember that?
It was probably about 20 years ago.
20 years?
Yeah.
And had the seed been planted then and you started thinking about it?
Yeah, and just like a lot of people, I read Bill Bryson's A Walk in the Woods back pretty much when it was published. And I kind of got the bug that, boy, I would like to try to do that. And for many years I kept reading accounts of people's through hikes through books, started to listen to podcasts, some YouTube videos and all, but I really felt like I had to wait until I retired. And I retired when I was 65. And then the next year, it was last year, 2018, and I attempted the through hike at that time.
Okay. And then when you didn't finish, you just went back home. Did you know immediately that you were going to come back?
Yeah, I knew I wasn't quitting hiking.
Okay.
I knew that the decision was to move from being a through hiker to being a section hiker. And it took a while to make that transition. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that there are some benefits to being a section hiker that I hadn't really thought about before. I had an interesting conversation with another hiker at a hostel just a few days back. His name was Tick Bite. Tick Bite is somebody that Jimmy interviewed fairly recently.
Right.
And Tick Bite and I were talking about that transition from being a through hiker to being a section hiker. And the way he put it, he said, "You set yourself free." And I thought, yeah, that's a good way of putting it. It freed me from needing to put in long miles every day. It freed me from having to hike in cold weather. I could kind of pick the sections I wanted to do during the seasons that I wanted to do them. And I'm enjoying it. I'm doing shorter days because I don't have to do the long days, and I'm really enjoying the hike a lot this way.
Now, you're hiking 187 miles, this section, is that right?
This section is 182. It's the last section left in Virginia. I started in Daleville and ending in Front Royal, with skipping the first half of the Shenandoah National Park because I had hiked that about 5 years ago.
Okay.
That was one of the benefits of being a section hiker is I could take all those little hikes that I'd done in past years
bring them back together.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that. So when will you go back and finish the rest of the trail?
The rest of the trail, after I finish in 2 days, I'll have done the entire trail except New Hampshire and Maine, which I plan to do next summer.
Okay. What's been the most fun part about being out here consistently day after day?
I'd have to say maybe two things, because I really love the solitude of hiking by myself, and I do 98% of the hiking that I do, I'm just by myself, and I just love that feeling of zooming through the woods and just having the chance to just think. But the other thing that I've met some tremendous people on the trail, and there's an instant bond that seems to happen with other hikers that doesn't quite happen the same way in the real world. And I've made some good friends, and I just love hanging out with other hikers, and so it's really the people too that make it so wonderful.
Let me ask you about the support system. Everybody talks about, having somebody back home to help them or talk to or whatever. How important is a support system for a through hiker or a section hiker?
I think it's very important, particularly if you are in a relationship, a marriage, or there's a partner or a loved one back home who you keep in touch with. And what of course, my wife is the person who's helped me out. And last year during the through hike, she was the one who had to package up boxes of food and mail them to me and all. That was a logistical challenge.
It is.
Well, one of the things that it took me a while to realize when it comes to the support person back home, your spouse or whoever, and that is that, because here you are out on the trail and you're doing this wonderful adventure. You're doing something that most people don't get a chance to do. And so whenever I speak to her, whenever I can, every night, unless I don't have any cell service. And it took me a long time to stop just always talking about what my day was like, because I was doing the big adventure. She was back at home just living sort of normal life. And after a while, she got to be a little bit annoyed that all I was doing is talking about myself. I didn't seem to express any interest in what was going on in her life. And it finally dawned on me that, boy, that's really selfish. It's not all about me. It's not all about the hiker, because that other person has a life too, just as important as yours. And so now when I talk to my wife, it's much more balanced. I want to hear about what's going on in her life. And it just makes sense. But it took a while for that to sink in.
That's good information, because I've talked to a lot of hikers, and they go through exactly what you just talked about, because you get consumed out here. And the AT will consume you for sure. And like you said, it's almost like you're not forgetting them back home, but you're forgetting about what they're going through. I mean, I was a spouse left at home, when I believed through hiked, and I know some of the anxieties I had when she first left. First of all, is somebody going to kill her or find her and beat her up or whatever? And then she's going to get eaten by a bear and all these other concerns. But when y'all come out here and y'all get to know each other, it becomes like a community talking. And I understand what you're saying about calling home, and you've had so much exciting stuff happen that day. You want to share it with the one you love, but then we can't relate to it on the other side sometimes, like y'all trying to explain it to us. So I understand what you're saying, because I was in her shoes when Sherry first through hiked, for sure. What's been the thing that you missed the most when you come out here for like this section here? I mean, what is it? Any comforts of home, or is it any food, or what's the main thing you think you'll miss?
Certainly when it comes to food, I get a little tired of just eating a lot of carbohydrates and honestly kind of junk food. So I miss that. I miss the simplicity of just brushing my teeth and hopping into bed. I have to set up my hammock, I have to set up my tarp, and in the morning I have to take all that stuff down. It takes me close to an hour and 45 minutes before I'm hiking. So I miss that convenience. But on the other hand, there's a routine, you kind of like that repetitive. Every day's kind of the same in a way, and that's kind of comforting, and it's simple.
Now, what about, do you miss TV and all that?
No, I don't miss TV.
You don't miss that. That's good. Now, what about your equipment when you did all the miles and even up to now? What's been the best, the piece you like the most of all your equipment? What would you say your favorite piece of equipment?
Well, if I can pick two,
okay,
one would be my hammock. I have a bridge hammock, which I find so comfortable because, in fact, I feel more comfortable in my hammock than I do in a bed. So that's been a great piece of equipment. But the other thing is finally finding the right shoes. I started off my hike last year with plantar fasciitis, and it was a real concern. How's that going to work out? But over the course of the 1,200 miles that I hiked last year, my feet just got better and better, especially when I got the shoes that were just perfect for me.
So is the shoes, because I hear that term all the time in the beginning, and I'm not a foot doctor by no means. So what is the best advice for somebody that has that?
Plantar fasciitis?
Yes.
I think you have to make sure that you have plenty of room inside your shoes.
Okay.
I had learned that over my shorter hikes in prior years. So I went up from a size 11 to a size 12, and that's pretty much all I wear these days is size 12. I think it's important to have a shoe that has a wide toe box. If your toes are pinched together, that's just not good. Your feet have to be able to move around inside there. I tried, and I did about half of my hike last year with the trail runners, the Ultra Lone Peaks. I was convinced that they were the best shoe to wear, but when I switched over to wearing our sturdy shoe, still just a shoe, it wasn't a boot, but it was a Keen. It had the wide toe box, but it had a firmer footbed, and it had. We got we got a little technical difficulty, and so it's the next day now, so the background's a little bit different. But what I was talking about was my shoes,
Right.
and I was talking about I'm wearing the Keens now. I like the big toe box. I think that's really important. And these also have a little bit of a heel drop, whereas the trail runners were flat. They were zero drop. And that seems to work for me. I'm not saying it's for everybody, but it helped for me. But while we're on the subject of shoes, socks are also important. And I have found that ever since I started wearing a sock liner, one of those Injinji, I think they're called, the 5-toe socks, as a liner, I haven't had a single blister. And I wear, conventional sock over there, like an anklet, and they do really well. And then, well, there was something else I was going to say.
Yeah, well, we was talking about the
Plantar.
the plantar.
Oh, the plantar fasciitis, yeah.
Go ahead and talk about that.
Yeah, that's a foot injury that I developed about 20 years ago from long distance running on pavement. And after my second marathon, I was working on my third, and I developed this plantar fasciitis. It got worse and worse and worse. I had to drop out of running altogether, pretty much. And I suffered from that for good 20 years.
Wow.
It never really went away. But I think that one of the things, and I can't say it's the only thing, but one of the things that seemed to help me was when I started my through hike attempt last year, I still had the plantar fasciitis. I went to see a couple of podiatrists. I got a good pair of orthotics finally, and I hiked in those orthotics. But even for the first, I'd say, month or so of my hike, I still had the plantar fasciitis pain in my heel towards the afternoon. In mornings that was okay, but then by the afternoon it started hurting again. But what I found is that as I continued to hike, that pain went completely away. And ever since that long hike, and I did 1,200 miles last year, I haven't had any problem with my heel. It's like I am healed from this problem.
Okay.
And
What types of shoes were you using?
He's already said what type of shoes.
yeah, I started
believe
off with
next
the
to-
trail runners, and I
Right.
ended up with the Keens. But so it's hard to say exactly what thing it was, or was it a combination of things. But I really believe that walking on trails is a very healthy thing for your feet.
Okay.
Walking on pavement is not. Walking on trails is good, and I think the reason is because every step you take is a little different from the one before, and your body, your legs, your feet, and your ankles are all making micro adjustments to accommodate what's underfoot, and that's great workout for your feet. And I think that's ultimately what cured me of the plantar fasciitis.
That's good information. I know a lot of people we help early on every year get off the trail because of that. So I'm glad to hear you say yours basically went away after hiking so many miles.
Yeah.
I mean, that's different than anything I've ever read or heard or seen somebody say. Yeah, guys, we're not going to keep him much longer, but we are in a different setting. The other setting was overlooking a valley. Now we're sitting at a picnic table, but it's not a bad place to be, is it?
It's a great place to be.
We're at Elkwalla, wayside on the Appalachian Trail, and they stopped for lunch today. And in fact, I'm going to be leaving them. Sherry and I are going to be heading south today. It's been good being around you far. Good to see you again this year. Glad we caught up with you, and congratulations on all the miles you've done since I've seen you, and all the miles that you're going to do next year to get to that flag up at Katad.
Thank you, Jimmy.
And anybody you want to say hello to before we say bye?
Hey, Mom. My 92-year-old mom, I hope you're watching this. I love you.
I guarantee you somebody will get her to watch it. God bless you, and God bless every step between here and Katad.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.